very sophisticated filters that take care of all of that. Also, a program note reminder, the Vice President, Mike Pence, will be appearing on the program today at 1:45 p.m. Eastern, an hour and 40 minutes or so, roughly, from now. And he'll be with us for 15 or so minutes for the time he starts to the end of the hour. Okay, I want to start with some audio sound bites from last night. I have been watching Fox News. Now, we've just learned this week, because of the release of transcripts from the committee hearings that were chaired by Adam Schiff, we've just learned that all these Clinton people and Obama people, Clapper, Brennan, and Holt, that were running around claiming Trump colluded and they had evidence of it, Trump was a Russian agent, all of it was lies. They were testifying under oath that they'd never seen any of it. They'd never seen any evidence. They had no knowledge whatsoever that Trump colluded with Russia on anything. So it was all lies, public lies. And then we learned later that the CEO of CrowdStrike, now remember CrowdStrike, private sector firm that the DNC hired to forensically examine the server that was supposedly hacked by the Russians. Whenever anybody expressed curiosity or doubt over the allegation that the Russians meddled in the election, the answer was always they hacked the DNC server. That's what it was. That's the Russian meddling right there. They hacked the DNC server. And some of the emails on that server from John Podesta and Hillary Clinton and so forth ended up at WikiLeaks and all that. Well, we also learned that the CEO of CrowdStrike testified under oath that he had no idea who hacked that server. Not only that, he didn't even know if it had been hacked from outside. In fact, it looked like it hadn't been hacked. It looked like that it was an inside job of getting data off of that server at very rapid transfer speeds, like happen when you're downloading or dumping to a thumb drive. Much faster speeds than you would get over an internet connection. So the entire story was blown to smithereens this week. Now, you, as regular listeners here, have known for 3 years what BS this all was. So all this stuff this week was confirmation for you. But to a lot of people, the Russians colluded, Trump helped them, Trump was a traitor, Trump was illegitimate, election was illegitimate. A lot of people in America believed it. And probably still do, to a certain extent. But the point is that everything publicly stated about it is a lie. Everything publicly stated has now been documented to be untrue, including this assertion that the Russians hacked the DNC server. Remember Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, who was at the time the chairman of the DNC, wouldn't even let the FBI see the server. They wanted to forensically examine it, find out what the hell happened. She said, no, you can't see it. And the FBI said, oh, okay, and went away. Then they hired CrowdStrike. And again, CrowdStrike CEO testifies under oath. They had no idea who hacked the DNC server, found no evidence the Russians did it. We've learned this week. It's been all over the news this week. Now, it hasn't been all over CNN, and it hasn't been all over the New York Times, which means it hasn't been all over. But those outfits are not really news. They're left-wing activist organizations disguised as journalists. So I want you to hear the way this is just a lesson in how this stuff all works. The truth has been blown to smithereens, or the lies have been blown to smithereens. The truth has now been revealed. And even before you get to any of this, let's not forget that the great white knight, Robert J. Mueller, the 19th, The guy that was going to find evidence that Trump had done all this dirty stuff with the Russians said, nah. After 2 years of a bogus investigation, it was unnecessary. Nope, can't find anything. It was an attempted coup. But I want to show you with a couple of sound bites how this stuff nevertheless gets perpetuated. Marie Harf was on Fox last night with Martha McCallum. They got 2 bites. Here's the first question. I watched this and I was screaming to TV. I got hold of Cookie. I said, I want these 2 bites. This is just livid. It made me livid. Marie Harf. She was in the State Department during the Obama administration. So the question, there was a lot of shock. There was a lot of surprise that Hillary Clinton had indeed lost the election, that Donald Trump was elected. Was there concern, Ms. Harf, that the Russia policy was going to be changed dramatically under the Trump administration? The question is, were you all in the Obama outgoing administration worried that the Russians were going to co-opt the Trump administration?
For months, we had seen a hostile foreign country, the Russians, interfere in our election. They stole emails. They hacked into servers.
Stop the tape. They did no such thing. We learned this week they did no such thing. And there she is, either purposefully lying or ignorantly continuing with the narrative that they have established. For months, we had seen a hostile foreign country, the Russians, interfere in our... Nope. No. There still isn't any evidence that they did anything above and beyond what they normally do. The Russians had not one iota's impact on the outcome of the election. Not one. We don't even know that it was the Russians who hacked the server. And yet, here she, cue that back up to the top. Here she is saying, they stole emails, they hacked into servers. Here, listen to the whole bite. I'll try to shut up during the whole thing, but it's really hard.
For months, we had seen a hostile foreign country, the Russians, interfere in our election. They stole emails, they hacked into servers, they put them out at politically convenient times. And so we had seen months and months of this, and we were very disturbed by it. You saw intelligence information coming in that showed that there had possibly been some Americans who had been in contact with them, possibly in coordination with them. And so the counterintelligence investigation that was done at the time was not about Russia policy. It wasn't about the fact that Hillary Clinton lost. It was about the fact that we were a country under attack, and there were real concerns and real evidence that there were possibly some Americans who had been helping them.
Folks, I'm telling you, there's not a syllable of that is true. Now, her claim here, what the purpose of the counterintelligence investigation was, we were a country under attack, real concerns, real evidence that there were some Americans who'd been helping. There isn't any evidence that anybody, particularly the Trump administration, had been helping the Russians. If anybody had been working with the Russians, it was Democrats from the Hillary campaign. But this is just a classic illustration of how a false narrative and a series of lies get established, and they continue despite being blown to smithereens. Everything this woman said in this soundbite is demonstrably false, is nowhere close to being true. Intelligence information coming in that showed there had possibly been some Americans who had been in contact with the Russians, maybe coordinated. Well, they tried to make that stick with people like George Papadopoulos, but it was all made up. All this was an investigation hoping to be able to create a crime. They wanted to be able to create a crime. The FBI and whoever else, Brennan and Clapper, who were trying to sustain this. Now, again, I don't know Marie Harf. I don't know whether she literally believes this or is she knowingly lying. It could go either way. There's one more question she was asked. Well, unfortunately, Marie, They didn't have any evidence that any Americans were helping the Russians. There was months of Russian interference going on. If Obama was so concerned about what he saw, why did he wait till after the election to slap these sanctions on the Russians?
We certainly raised it privately with the Russians while it was happening. President Obama has said that, so has John Brennan and others. But we were very concerned that if we publicly slapped the Russians while it was going on in an aggressive way, that they would actually take further steps. And I should point out that before the election, we did announce that we had determined that the Russians had done some of the hacking. We did put a lot of the information out there. But the fact remains that there was some evidence, right? We talked about Michael Flynn a lot.
Stop it. Now you get into Flynn. Now you're totally lying. There's no evidence, Marie. There never has been any evidence. The only question is, are you this dupable, or are you in on the conspiracy to spread this caca? I mean, it just gets worse and worse and worse, but I'm only pointing this out to illustrate how no matter what truth is revealed, no matter what set of lies is exposed as fraud, they still live on. And this is why I say I don't think you should ever believe these people. I think the odds are, whenever you're reading in New York Times or see Marie Harf say something, default reaction ought to be not to believe it. Let's go back. I want you to, she's talking about Obama slapping sanctions on the Russians, talking to the Russians. We certainly did tell the Russians to stop it. This is when Obama said he got hold of Putin and said, you better stop it. You better stop it right now. But here's the truth of the matter. This is Obama, October 18th, 2016. It's before the election. And he's in the Rose Garden with the Italian Prime Minister, joint press conference. And a Reuters correspondent said Donald Trump is telling his supporters the election's rigged. He's asking them to monitor certain areas on Election Day. How concerned are you, oh deity? How concerned are you about the potential for violence? And what about after Election Day? Are you worried the results of the election may be distrusted? Are you worried the Russians are going to affect the outcome?
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections, in part because they're so decentralized and the numbers of votes involved. There's no evidence that that has happened in the past or that there are instances in which that will happen this time.
Well, there came the truth. That was October 18th, 2016. And in that instance, Obama's right. The election is too fractured. It's 50 state elections. Then you break the states down to precincts and districts. There's no way, there's literally no way a presidential election could be rigged in the sense that they tried to make it look like it could by hacking the Democrat National Committee server and putting out a bunch of unfavorable emails written by Podesta and Hillary Clinton. So this remains a big bugaboo to me, folks. I think it remains the biggest scandal in American history, and it's still alive. It's still alive in the way we are being forced to deal with this coronavirus pandemic. And so whatever I can do to inform, educate as many people as possible to the ways and the techniques and the attempts that the left and the Democrat Party make, the better people will be informed to resist. It's frustrating as it can be to me, you know. And I'm not so naive that I believe that everybody who lies ought to be caught and punished. I know it's, you know, part and parcel of American politics, but this is particularly egregious because of what the attempt was and what media is saying that they're going to interfere in the 2020 election. They're mad. They're ticked off. The Chi-Coms are threatening to meddle in the upcoming U.S. presidential election as retribution for a flurry of American lawsuits seeking to hold the Chi-Coms accountable for the spread of the coronavirus. The Chi-Com Communist Party, quote, won't just strike back symbolically, We will impose countermeasures that will make Americans feel pain. This, according to the Global Times, it's a Chi-Com newspaper run by the regime. Every Chi-Com newspaper is run by the regime. The threats come as outrage grows over China's handling of the coronavirus outbreak and the subsequent global spread of the virus. Now, the Chi-Coms try to interfere in our affairs every day. The Chi-Coms are trying to hack the Pentagon's servers. They're trying to hack the NSA. The Chi-Coms are trying to get everything we do. We try to do the same to them. So the Chi-Coms coming along and threatening to interfere in the election is classic. It is setting up the American media as a bunch of fall guys. It is reaching out to certain percentage of the American people who believe the Russians interfered. The Chi-Coms want in on this. The Chi-Coms are sitting there. They think the Russians are a bunch of pikers when it comes to computer hackery. And they're jealous the Russians are getting all this credit for hacking into our elections. The Chi-Coms are jealous and upset that the Russians are being touted as these indomitable computer hackers that screwed the American election, actually gave it to Trump when he didn't win. The Chi-Coms watching it. You want to see some meddling, you wait till we get started. And they're warning they're going to do this if we don't pull back on some of these lawsuits. You know what it sounds like? It sounds a lot like a bunch of blue state governors telling non-essential businesses that if they try to reopen, they're going to be crushed, which is exactly what is happening. A bunch of blue state governors are telling people in their states that if they violate any of these orders, that they're going to get crushed. Their business licenses will be pulled. Democrat judges might put you in jail if you don't do as instructed by the blue state governors. It's what leftists do, whether they're in China, whether they're in Russia, whether they're in Washington, California. They don't collaborate, they annihilate. They don't lift people up. Hey, from Texas, this is Jeff. Jeff, I'm glad you called, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, Rush. I just want to say thank you. It's a real honor to speak with you. You're in our hearts and prayers, and just thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, sir, very much.
This morning you've talked about Marie Harf and some of the things that she was spewing out yesterday evening. And I just happened to notice she's on the noon show with Harris Faulkner, kind of spewing the same stuff again. And
wait a minute. How in the hell can you watch that show when this show is on at the same time?
Well, I was going to the kitchen to get something to eat, and I happened to see it.
Okay. I got it.
I listen to you religiously, but I do keep Fox on.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
Television's always on in the background. That's it. If you've got Fox on and this show on, I guarantee you the volume is up on this show, and you're just watching Fox silently. I guarantee it. I know how this works.
Well,
watching TV is passive viewing.
Well, I happened to see her, and you just previously had mentioned her name, and I saw her, so I turned it up and heard the exact same thing. And I just wanted to express my frustration. It just seems anymore like Fox is really the last source out there that we can go to. One American News isn't bad, but, it's just getting frustrating to see them drifting farther and farther to the left. And, I get fair and balanced, but I'm just frustrated, and I just wanted to express that. I'm sure there's others out there that are feeling the same way, and I'm just wondering what your view is.
That there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do about it. True, Marie Harf is on Fox, and she lies through her teeth. She was telling these Russian lies even after the truth had come out last week and early this week. Fox has made a decision that they're going to have voices from across the political spectrum. And whatever they say, it's the First Amendment, it's freedom of speech. It's going to be up to the viewer to weed through it, make their minds up what they want to believe and what not. Fox is simply presenting all options. The difference is that you won't find a Marie Harf equivalent on CNN or MSNBC, you will not find a conservative comment. Not that it would make you watch CNN or MSNBC anyway. But you know how it is with conservatives. They think they have to go way out of their way to prove they're not biased and that they're not racist, sexist, bigot, homophobes, and all that rot. And so they bring in people like Donna Brazile and Marie Harf and what have you to otherwise pollute and corrupt those shows. And there's nothing that's going to change it. It's an operating strategy, operating policy at the management, upper levels of management at Fox. Jeff, I'm glad you called. Thanks much. Jerry in Atlanta, great to have you, sir. Hello, you're on Open Line Friday, and you're up next.
Thanks, Rush. I appreciate all you do. Hey, I want to paraphrase a comment or something I read about 20 years ago and just hear your thoughts if you think it applies today. And that is, the comment was, science is great, but scientists are dangerous. And they're human, and sometimes they'll act like a cheap defense lawyer rather than a pure speaker and seeker of the truth. And it just made me think, and I was just kind of curious if you thought that maybe applied today.
So what is the question you're asking me specifically?
In terms of, and I don't want to say like Dr. Fauci this, but when studying this coronavirus, there are facts, there are inferences that you can make analogies to other viruses, and then there are opinions. And those are the only three things out there. And I think we're hearing a lot of opinions that are being taken as facts. And I was kind of curious if you thought maybe they're not saying and stressing out that, hey, these are the facts versus this is my opinion or this is my thought on what might happen.
Well,
that makes sense.
No, but let me answer it anyway. The best way to understand science today is that it has been corrupted by the left. The left has pretty much corrupted everything it's touched, purposefully. It's not just happened because a bunch of people who are liberals decided to go into quote-unquote science. It's that they actively decided to do it for the express purposes of advancing the liberal political agenda. To leftists and liberals and communists and socialists, all that matters is the agenda and advancing it. It's the number one objective for being alive. They're not interested in persuading hearts and minds that they're correct. They're not interested in debates. They're not interested in having to persuade people that their view is correct by having a superior view and having a more persuasive way of presenting it. They demand that you accept it or else. They do not want any opposition. They do not want any obstacles into the implication or the implementation of what they believe. And so it's all a game. Pretty much everybody in Washington government is a leftist and a careerist. And there are exceptions, but that's the most of them. Science has been set up as infallible. You can't dispute it. You can't disagree with it. In fact, let me find, there's a soundbite here that will make partially the point. If I can find it. It happened last night on Shannon Bream's show. Let me see. Here it is. Grab soundbite number 17. Shannon Bream last night had the Peace Corps medical director. The Peace Corps. Now, what is the Peace Corps? The Peace Corps is some government. JFK established this thing. A bunch of young people run around the world spreading peace. And now they've got a medical director. They're just a bunch of, left-wing hikers. They go hike in Africa. They go hike in India. They go hike. And they run into people. They spread peace. They wear khaki shorts. They run around with backpacks. They're hikers. And it's called a Peace Corps. So that you think the work is wonderful and good and you cannot object to it. And they got a medical director. So last night, Shannon Bream is talking to the medical director for the Peace Corps about my comments on the guidelines that have been set up for reopening the economy and how they keep moving. They keep moving the goalposts on us. And here is how that soundbite sounded.
I want to play a little bit of what Rush Limbaugh had to say about this today, about how people are feeling like the goalposts keep moving. Here's what he said.
So we had to flatten the curve and follow the data of flawed models. You need more testing, so we got more testing. It's not enough. We need even more. Now that's not enough. We need antibodies. Oh, that doesn't mean anything anymore. Now we need a vaccine. There may never be a vaccine.
All right, doctor, I know that you want to keep us safe, but you can hear the frustration in his voice.
I certainly could. I love Rush. He's the best conservative journalist probably ever. I looked today on his bio. I can't find out where he went to medical school. Not sure he has a medical degree. And the goalposts haven't moved, Shannon. What we've done is we've learned a lot more about the disease.
So you see, I am immediately disqualified for having any kind of opinion about what he later acknowledges is true. The goalposts are moving. But I don't have a medical degree. I don't wear a lab coat. I don't have any kind of health expertise on my resume. Look at this. There's a Rose Garden ceremony right now, and Dr. Fauci standing behind Trump for the first time wearing a mask. I know why the media jumped on it, but the mask is a symbol of fear. They're using the mask as a symbol of fear, and now Dr. Fauci, the world's foremost authority, obviously he's got to be scared. It's got to be worse than Dr. Fauci thought. He's wearing a mask. That's the message conveyed by the phone. Anyway, my point is, they're moving the goalposts. They're doing everything they can in the blue states to keep this economy shut down. I pointed out it's immediately disqualified because I didn't go to medical school. I'm just, folks, look, try to make this as simple as I can. When it comes to science in climate change, science everywhere has been corrupted. Every government institution has been hijacked over the years. It didn't just happen yesterday. It's been going on my whole life. To the point now that the administrative state exists to thwart personal liberty and freedom and conservatism and advance the notions of gigantic big government and authoritarian control that conveys. And they have taken over field like science, where you can't dispute it. You can't dispute what Dr. Fauci says. You don't have a medical degree. And even if you did, you wouldn't be allowed to dispute Dr. Fauci. But he's not alone. I mean, you can't dispute the climate change. A consensus of scientists. A consensus of science. Right there. You can't disagree. Or if you do, nobody should listen to you because you're a plebe. Well, there's no consensus in science. It's not up to a vote. So again, it's just something to be originally, inherently doubtful and suspicious of when a bunch of government scientists or government anything tell you things. Don't believe it at first. Wait for it to be confirmed or true, because I'll guarantee you all it's about is advancing the liberal Democrat, what is now socialist. And he said, for those of you in Rio Linda, it means it's big and it's fast. Well, he didn't say for those of you in Rio Linda, but he said it means big and it's fast. And it's about, he's appointing some czar to come up with a coronavirus vaccine, he hopes, by the end of the year. Going to be working on it very rapidly, very quickly, have been working on it. Feels really good that it's going to happen sooner than anybody thinks. Hopes to get it done by the end of the year. In addition, new therapies, therapeutic advancement, treatments, in other words. So the effort here the White House is engaged in to send the signal that they're on top of this. They are not relaxing or wasting any time, and are dead serious about the notion of a vaccine. The vaccine, that's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing to commit to. This is the second time the president has said that he hopes they can get one done by the end of the year. That would be fabulous if something had actually happened. Here's Wade in Clearwater, Florida. Welcome, sir. You're next at Open Line Friday. Hi.
Thank you, Raj, and it's a pleasure speaking with you, and my prayers are going out for you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I wanted to, just talk about the left narrative of social distancing and delaying the reopening of the country, and I honestly believe that they're trying to delay the rallies that Trump is holding, is generating such a momentum and a big a thrill with everybody, and I think they've just done that to slow it down because they got to do something to stop it.
Well, I don't think that's the sole reason that they are keeping the country shut down in these blue states. But you could fold it into the overall reason. I mean, they want to stop Trump, period. They want Trump defeated. Their dream would be to still get Trump thrown out of office before the election. And make no mistake, that is an active, ongoing objective that if they thought they could achieve and accomplish, they'd go for it, even though the election is just a few relatively short months away. But barring that, they want to beat Trump in the election in November, and they're going after the economy. The problem is that the latest polling data says that most Americans are not blaming him for the economy. Majority of U.S. residents do not blame Trump for the stunning loss of American jobs since the coronavirus hit. And it's one of their polls. It's not one of ours. The latest Economist YouGov poll shows that just 1/3 of the country blame Trump. Most of them are Democrats. So they're not gaining any ground in this at all. And then Pelosi keeps coming up with these ridiculous, never going to see the light of day, panacea bailout bills. They are designed to be defeated. The way they're promoted, look at all the goodies the Democrats want to give you. Look at all the help and all the assistance and all the benefits the Democrats want to give you. And then mean Mr. Orange Man comes along with that reprobate Mitch McConnell, and they say, ain't happening. Dead on arrival. That's what they want. They want to be able to tell the American people that Trump, McConnell, Republicans want them in pain. Don't want you to get any help. But Pelosi's legislation is ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It doesn't have a chance. In fact, it is so bad, it might not even survive a vote among Democrats in the House now. That's how bad that bill is. But I'll guarantee you, this latest polling data, the Democrats are going to look at this and going to throw their hands up in so much utter frustration. They are keeping their blue states locked down. Hell, this idiot Cuomo just announced that New York is going to be shut down now through the middle of June. He was going to lift some of the stay-at-home stuff tomorrow. Well, today. Now he's announced it's going to be extended another month. It's asinine. These people are, I don't think they understand the damage they are doing to themselves. Particularly this Andrew Cuomo, folks, you got to be very careful here. I have to be very careful. We're dealing with somebody. I don't care what. It's just not that smart. It's not that he's a dyed-in-the-wool liberal Democrat. He's just not very bright. And he is engaged in policy implementation here. If he's not careful, he is going to destroy and wipe out the Manhattan commercial real estate market. And then with that, he's going to destroy half of the tax base of the state of New York.
Rush Limbaugh, your treasure map to the truth on the EIB network.
He's announcing essentially Operation Warp Speed, which is the administration's official announcement of the objective to find a vaccine for the coronavirus by the end of the year. And he has appointed a former executive from GlaxoSmithKline, a pharmaceutical company, to head up the effort. In addition, he got some military people in there, the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. And they're all making trips to the microphone to speak and to thank the president, talk about the great leadership, the great motivation that he is providing in this effort. They just, and standing behind the president, this cannot be an accident. They stage these things. And standing behind the president as the president speaking at the microphone, behind the president as he's standing, his left shoulder, is Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci is wearing one of the biggest masks I have ever seen in my life. It goes all the way from the bridge of his nose almost down to his tie knot. Just about an inch of skin there on his neck that is exposed. And just a casual observer, when the president's speaking, the only other person in the camera shot is Dr. Fauci. And it looks like he's being muzzled. You can't read his facial expression. Dr. Fauci has said vaccine, well, may never be a vaccine. Maybe 12 to 18 months at the outside. Fauci's standing there listening to this commitment to come up with a vaccine by the end of the year, which is 6 months from now, 7 months. And I would love, you can't, he's not rolling his eyes or doing, he's not, and he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't engage in a public display of doubt like that. But still, it's a fascinating shot. They keep moving the goalposts as to when we can reopen. First they said we had to flatten the curve. We flattened the curve. They said, well, that's not enough. Now we got to do X. Well, I got that more testing out there. So now we got more testing in any country in the world. That's still not enough. We need to do this. And so when we did the next thing and finished, that's still not. We need it. We can't go out till there's a cure. We can't open up till there's a vaccine. So at every stage where they have said we could relax some of these restrictions, we've met those requirements, and the proponents of the lockdown want to stay locked down. Now, there's an interesting statistic coming out of Georgia today. It's a tweet of a chart by Eric Erickson. And I'm not going to put the chart on the Ditto Cam. It's impossible to read this thing. It'd be too small on the screen, and I can describe the chart better than what the chart shows. Bottom line is, Georgia's one of the states that's opened up. Georgia opened up early. There was incredible pressure on the governor Kemp not to do it, to change his mind. He stuck to his guns and opened up. New daily cases in Georgia are going down even as the testing increases. That, folks, is phenomenal. It should be the exact opposite. The more you test, the greater the number of people you will find who have the virus. Not all of them feeling the symptoms, many of them asymptomatic. But remember, when the whole subject of testing came up, everybody said there's a phenomenon that you're going to have to adapt to. As we start testing, the number of cases is going to skyrocket. The only way we know how many people have the virus now is if they show up at the hospital. But if we start randomly testing people outside the hospital when they're not suffering any symptoms, we're gonna find a lot more people that have become infected. Now, as that happens, the mortality rate plunges because the number of deaths are what they are. There's no test for death. There's actual death and not death. And if people die, And if they attribute the death to the COVID virus, that's a static number. It changes every day as they change the count, but it still is a static number. It does not change with testing. So as more people are found to be infected, the mortality rate plunges because the denominator stays the same and the numerator skyrockets. So you have an ever bigger universe of people who have the disease to compare against the number of people who are dying from it. Now, what's remarkable about what's happened here in Georgia is that as they ramp up testing, the number of cases in Georgia is going down. Now, you would think that this would be huge news. You remember how the increase in tests was supposed to reveal an increase in cases that otherwise would have been missed. In other words, the reason for testing is to find out the people who've got this disease that we don't know have it. And we got to test and we got to find out so that we can keep people safe. We got to find out if you have it, for example, so we can limit your contact with people. We have to find out if you have it so we can keep people from having contact with you. We got to test. We got to test. We can't open up till we test. We need more tests. And we now have more tests than anybody in the world. Now they complain and gripe to Trump for pointing that out. The number of new daily cases in Georgia is flat. It's infinitesimally small compared to the number of people who are being tested. This goes against everything we've been told about how this is going to work. And all it does, aside from conveying really fascinating good news, is to tell us once again that there isn't a singular foremost authority on this who, more than anybody else, knows what they're talking about. Because I'm telling you, folks, as you start testing, it should be axiomatic. The number of reported infections should be skyrocketing. And it isn't in the state of Georgia, a state which has opened up. Now, let's go to another state which hasn't. And this would be the state of Michigan, where the governor there is drunk on her newfound authoritarian powers. The Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, now is having a tough time with the American legal system because the American legal system doesn't take kindly to dictators. This is a story, PJ Media, by Megan Fox. And the headline, Lockdown Lawsuit. Doctors hit. Gretchen Whitmer with lawsuit over medical time bomb. Earlier in the week, she appeared to be losing a very public fight with 77-year-old Carl Mankey, who continues to defy her orders to shut down his barbershop, even after losing his license to operate without a hearing. He's still cutting hair, and the sheriff won't stop him. The governor has singled out a lone barber, taken away his license, ordered the sheriff and other authorities to go in and make him stop it. They won't do it, and he won't stop. A judge slapped the governor, Governor Whitmer, down when she tried to get a restraining order against this barber, 77 years old. The judge ruling to hear him out in court. Megan Fox writes, I would have paid good money to have been in the room when she was served with a new lawsuit brought by doctors and one patient claiming that her draconian lockdown orders have created a medical time bomb for patients who were awaiting elective surgeries and now cannot get them. And here's the upshot of this. And let's go back to Georgia. Georgia has opened up, not fully, but partially. Testing has increased rapidly. They are not finding a concomitant number of increase in cases. The number of cases is remaining flat. As more and more people are tested, it's fabulous news. But in Michigan, medical providers are on the brink of financial ruin, facing extreme revenue shortages caused by Governor Whitmer's order, which has forced the postponement or cancellation of so-called non-essential procedures. That's in the lawsuit filed by the Mackinac Center Legal Foundation and a private law firm, Miller Johnson. Thousands of healthcare workers across Michigan have been furloughed or laid off. Now, in addition to the economic devastation, the governor's order has left hospitals and patients facing a dangerous backlog on procedures that'll create a public health catastrophe of its own, said Dr. Randall Baker, general surgeon, president of Grand Health Partners, one of the plaintiffs in Grand Rapids. Dr. Baker said this whole elective procedure thing, and we can't do it's a time bomb. There's no good reason to have a ban on elective surgery anymore. This is now a significant health problem for the people of Michigan and our patients. I've already had one patient attempt suicide. It's a very serious attempt. Another pull quote from the story, graphics depicted that while Governor Whitmer's administration anticipated 220,000 patients being hospitalized without social distancing efforts, there have only been 3,000 hospitalizations as of 27th of April. It's out there predicting, like all these other people, out there predicting massive doom and gloom, and they have been so far from being correct that it's laughable. Less than 1.4% of the projected COVID-19 hospitalizations have occurred. Less than 1.4% of what they predicted. And still, elective procedures in hospitals are prohibited by order of the governor. I mentioned in the previous hour that if Governor Cuomo's not careful, he's going to ruin the commercial real estate business in New York. You know what's happening right now in New York? Because of the stay-at-home order being extended and because of work from home, a bunch of people, it's happening in San Francisco too. The tech company, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they've all shut down their primary campuses in Silicon Valley. In places like Cupertino, some of the other cities, and people are working from home. And what these people working from home are realizing, they don't need to pay exorbitant San Francisco rent because they don't need to live there anymore to do their jobs. It's been established. They haven't been going to the office since March. Same thing's happening in New York. People that live in Connecticut who commute to Manhattan every day realizing they don't have to go back to Manhattan ever to do their jobs. And if you don't have to go back to Manhattan, you don't have to live in Connecticut. And you don't have to pay massive Connecticut taxes. And you don't have to share the tax burden with New York. And then if you're not going into Manhattan for your job, the company doesn't need to be renting all that commercial real estate space. If these people are not careful, these governors, they're going to destroy the essence of what the blue states are. They're going to destroy these urban areas where massive blocks of Democrat voters live. And this massive block of Democrat voters is going to scram. That ain't good news for us, because we're one of the places they're going to scram to. But it's not going to take long for all these people to realize they don't have to commute from Connecticut to Manhattan. The businesses to realize we don't need to rent all this business office space. And then the people, like the Tech Valley people, the Silicon Valley people, employees, they don't have to pay $3,000 a month rent in San Francisco now. They can pack up and move to Idaho. They can pack up and they can move to Hawaii if they want and still work for for Facebook or Twitter or whatever, because it's now been established they don't have to be in the office. And the longer these companies, not just tech, the longer these companies in these blue states make it clear as a bell that they can function without having a staff come into the office every day, these governors are screwing themselves in ways they can't even see yet. And you know why? It's because they're typical liberal Democrats. They think whatever pain that they inflict on people, the people will take it and accept it and deal with it and still keep coming back for more, as in tax increases. They can never get it through their heads that people will find a way around having to pay them. And it's the same thing that's being set up to happen here. This guy, Cuomo, may destroy Broadway, the theater business. He may destroy the restaurant business that lives off of the Broadway theater business. All the while thinking he's some brilliant savior of
Hello, xin chào tất cả mọi người. Ngượng mồm nhỉ? Không, nói có mẹ cái trăm lần rồi vẫn ngượng mồm. Hôm nay xin review về cái đu đủ. Ê, mày nói chuyện tao vui mày. Đi. Tao nói chuyện tao chứ tao cần đặt cam này mà. Tao nói chuyện tao vui nào. Còn cái nữa thôi. Mẹ thách tự kỹ vẽ là hồn rồi. Những lồn gì ra đây nào? Cái lồn cứ quay mày đéo đâu sợ. Có quay mày đéo đâu sợ mà mày có sợ nhỉ? Hả? Đâu cái này quay là phải cần có gì đâu. Cái cây cối thứ thì mày đâu phải cần chỗ đâu. Tụi mày ra đây không? Phải lồn thật. Để nào ra cơ. Ủa mà tụi mày có nộp cái giấy gì chưa? Ê, nộp giấy giấy gì đó định cư mà rối gì chưa?
Đăng ký ngoại trú.
Ký ngoại trú á. Thôi, để nó sẽ canh mày. Để được một cỡ trần. Để sao ra.
Không được cởi chân á?
Ba người cỡ trần nếu được. Hủy video. Mới dính này nha. Dính mạng này sẽ lại video để ăn lồn. Ngoài thôi trước mặt thôi.
Sao video lại không được cởi chân?
Gì tốt mà.
Thì anh quay cái quần này.
Còn gì tốt nó đâu được cái trần đâu. Nó xóa mạng cây luôn á.
Em thấy Dương Minh Tuyền cởi chân suốt.
Cái này là nước ngọt hay Việt Nam trên nội ơi.
Con nước ngoài nó cởi chân suốt mà. Mấy con
là người mua
con nó đóng phim check cởi chân suốt. Nó cởi cả quần cả áo luôn.
Người mua không được đúng không? Người mua đéo được. Bắt buộc như vậy. Lồn nát sao?
Đây anh quay đây này.
Có cái lồn gì không? Được cái lồn gì giờ? Được cái lồn. Sao mà?
Yeah.
Sao sau à?
Đâu?
Qua sao nào?
Đâu?
Sao có cái lồn sau mà?
Đâu có đâu.
Có gì đâu?
Hình lồn.
Xong ngu hổ sau á.
Không có hình dáng gì sau á.
Em xong ngu hổ sau á.
Xong cô đi, xong tốt được.
Xong con voi ở đây.
Xong gì không? Không dung vậy kìa.
Thôi em chăm con voi ở đây thôi chứ con nhung không được.
Sao mà để thằng lồn tân đi nộp mình vậy?
Em đâu có chăm cái này thôi mà. Anh
Đó.
biết được nó tự nguyện đi làm chứ đâu có kêu nó làm đâu.
Thằng thăm bồ à? Nó có bồ không?
Yeah.
Nó có bồ không?
Nó có đầy bồ luôn.
Đó có bồ rồi con ngoài luôn.
Nhá.
Đó bồ nó có bạn anh Sơn, anh Hùng. Anh Hùng phải không? Anh Hùng đúng không? Mấy thằng mà lúc mày á cầm 2 tuổi đi. Cái anh Hùng đồ quá rồi ơi, cái mắt lòng nhờ.
Nó kêu anh Cường là người yêu nó.
Cái anh Hùng hả? Anh Hùng cơ. Hùng mà bạn nhỉ? Từ sáng nhỏ mà cô to ấy lồn rồi.
Cho mày cái ví. Xịn lắm thôi.
Con này giờ thấy mới được mới khóa này. Tuần rồi mấy đứa hơi đập mặt đâu cơ. Vô không vào ra không quần. Đợt trước mày vào chưa vào á tại phòng này. Xong phòng này là có 2 chị. Xong bên đây là 4 thằng con trai. Bên kia là phòng thằng D. Xong bên kia đó là phòng lành. Xong bên kia là mấy người có mấy người gì á, gì mông gì đấy. Chứ phòng tao. Trong kính trái trọ luôn, không ai không nào không có đó. Nó vui vẻ lồn rồi.
Bây giờ thì mua.
Giờ trống 4 phòng kìa, phải đâu. Đã đi thực tập hết rồi, 5 phòng chứ rồi. Phòng kia là phòng 6 nữa. Buồn đéo gì tán gái để chị tán. Hả?
Tán gì? Mệt anh ơi.
Sao mệt?
Không có tiền mua quà đâu.
Đéo gì quà?
Đúng rồi.
Cần gì quà mới có tiền mua tiền bọc sâu rồi.
Hai hoa giải đưa rồi.
Hả? Trai vậy mà.
Hồi sáng bọn em đi ra sau cái dãy nhà thực hành bọn em nhặt ra thấy 3 cái đu rét. 3 cái đu rét người ta khui rồi.
Tất chỗ mày chưa học gì nhỉ? Học gì ta? Môn gì nhỉ? Môn sinh. Môn gì mà bắt buộc học á? Cái đang mềm. Mày thổi bao cao su cái nào to hơn thắng. Thôi chưa? Chưa à? Nó ta nó cầm quất lên gần 100 cái, 4 tổ, mỗi tổ hoặc là 20 cái đấy.
Rồi to hơn người đây thắng. Ghê đấy.
Thổi nổ luôn mà. Direct đồ mất luồng ok đồ. Ok không có. Không nhắn luồng gì với mẹ tên rồi. Khá là được. Được phải luôn luôn.
Direct XO.
Tao có ông anh kia mày, sinh năm bao nhiêu rồi? Sinh năm 8 mấy rồi, hơn thì tận giáp lợn vẫn đi học. Tức ít mẹ 5 phút rồi. Bye các bạn đang xem video của mình. Nếu hay thì đừng một like và một subscribe.